Hi, I'm Candace with Slusher Consulting, and I want to dig in a little more on employee retention and talk about offering benefits to caregivers. Now, traditionally, when we think of benefits at work, it's health insurance, 401k, things like that. And while those are all fine and well, with Obamacare, things really changed. The rules really changed in regard to healthcare benefits, and that still can be very expensive for an agency to be able to provide within the rules and parameters that the ACA gives you. So if you can't do that, that's okay. There's other things that you can give them. So I want to talk about some of those other options today. The first one is setting up just a system to have a caregiver of the month or caregiver of the year, or really both. Make it a big deal. Okay, so maybe it's based on feedback from clients, or again, the fact that they clock in and out on time every day and they never miss a day, or they haven't had an absence in 6 months or something like that. Pick a few little measurements and matrix and say, okay, well, you've met all these parameters, or you've had now 3 different clients that have complimented you and we just want to recognize you for being great. Great. So print out a certificate. Give them a gift card maybe for a restaurant or Walmart or the local grocery store. Maybe even a gas card, because everybody needs those. Put it in your newsletter that you send out to all the staff and clients. Put it up on your social media, obviously with permissions for getting pictures. Just make them feel special. Make a thing out of it, okay? Maybe even invite them in to have lunch with everybody in the office. That would be fun. That would be a good way to involve them. Speaking of inviting them, invite them to your community events. So if your agency has chosen maybe the Alzheimer's Association or a Parkinson's Foundation or some sort of organization that you're doing fundraising for, or volunteerism, invite them to come if their schedule allows, to volunteer with you, to fundraise with you. That's part of making sure that they know and feel like they're on your team. They don't just work for you, they're part of your team and part of your group. Send out birthday cards and holiday cards. Handwritten is preferable, okay? Those printed ones or the sendoutcards.com is fine, but it is impersonable, and they can tell. So handwritten cards, little notes, thanks for bailing us out, things like that. Maybe even give, again, a gift card, a $5 or $10 Sonic or a Starbucks card. Everybody, loves a Starbucks $5 coffee, but don't really want to pay $5 for a coffee. So that's a great gift. Thanks so much for picking up that extra shift this weekend. Or again, your client complimented you, or we just noticed that we haven't heard from you in a long time and we're missing you. How are you doing? Things like that are really helpful. And so speaking of not hearing from them, be sure you recognize the quiet ones. While no news is good news, still, you're going to have these really great staff members who show up to work every day, who never call in sick, who send in their reports or their documentation on time. And so they're not the squeaky wheel, so they don't get the grease. And that's not really fair. So make sure that, again, if you're touching points with every caregiver once a month or every 3 months or something, that you're telling the ones that you don't hear from, they're not calling to complain, they're not giving you a hard time, still say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being so consistent. Sorry we don't talk to you more often. We just know you've got everything covered. Something like that. Make sure that they understand, again, their value and how you value them. No news is good news, but they still need to feel appreciated. That's a big deal for caregivers. And then, my last recommendation, and this is not for everybody, but if you can manage to offer PTO, paid time off for your staff. Sick leave is one thing, and in some areas sick leave is mandated to pay, but if they could accrue or earn time off, that's a big deal and relatively new. Historically, caregiving agencies haven't provided that. They don't get paid time off. If they miss a day, they just miss a day. And that's not really fair if they're sick, or if their kids are sick, or there's a reason they needed to miss work. Or sometimes they might just want to schedule a few days off and not feel like, well, I'd love to take a vacation, but I'm not going to be able to pay my bills if I do that, right? So this is a good option. Now, there's a few different ways. I'm just going to make some recommendations on parameters. You do want to set up parameters if they're going to accrue PTO. For instance, one option might be offering them 1 hour at minimum wage rather than their full pay rate for every 40 hours that they work. Or maybe 1 hour at full pay for every 60 hours. there is going to be some keeping track of that in your accounting system or your, within your payroll to be able to pay attention to that, but could be worth it. That's a big deal for people. Maybe say it's usable only after you've been there for at least 6 months. Maybe it has to be in 4-hour increments, or it has to be approved ahead of time. Consider what kind of cap you're going to put on that. Will they stop accruing hours at 40 hours and if they have to use it in order to start accruing more? Or will you go up to 80 hours? How do you want to do that? Because again, on your accounting side, you do have to have a fund set aside where you are paying that, because that is one of the things you would pay without billing, like training. Okay. I don't recommend making them use it by the end of the year. One of those use it or lose it things with an end of the year parameter, maybe a middle of the year or their anniversary date, maybe, but not at the end of the year, because then what you're going to have is 25 caregivers requesting, a whole week vacation around Christmas so that they can use their time by the end of the year. And then if you don't give it to them, you're the villain, all that kind of thing. So don't make it harder for yourself than it has to be. I just think that's a really good plan. And I know it feels really good for caregivers to know that they can take a day off without being financially penalized. All right, well, I hope that this was helpful. I hope you can come up with some creative benefits to give your caregivers, and, even list that in your ads when you're recruiting if you need to. That should be helpful. Talk to you later.